Whoa, 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 whoa.
What's the problem?
This
What's the matter?
This is not a Jet show.
So what?
So how about this?
Manning lobs it. Boris alone. Touchdown, New York.
Oh, come on. I don't want to hear this.
Why not? Super Bowl champions.
Doesn't matter. I just don't want to hear it.
What do you want to hear?
How about some Mets?
Hey, if I can find one good thing that happened to the Mets, here we go.
Home run. Mike Piazza. And the Mets lead 3-2.
Oh, yeah. It's got to be, I'm sorry. We all can't be like the Yankees.
Oh, speaking of.
This one by Mattingly. Oh, hang on to the roof. Goodbye, home run. Don Mattingly.
No. God, I can't believe I just said that. All right, well, listen. How about a little Nets?
If I have to.
Kid, the jumper to win it. He got it.
I can't take it. I can't take it anymore. It's been a second. I can't take it. How about some Knicks?
Oh, yeah. Big spenders. Can't win a playoff.
Fair enough.
Houston pops out up top, down the lane, running jumper off the front rim, and in.
I guess we should talk a little hockey, no?
People even watch hockey anymore?
They watch the Rangers.
Well, if you have the Rangers, you gotta have some violence.
Yeah, no, they didn't have a YouTube in the 80s.
All right, let's get the show started.
Here we are, polar opposites. Hello and welcome to Polar Opposites. We're coming to you live on YouTube and on Twitter. You can also download us, iTunes, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Matt Stevens. Alongside me, as always,
Is Craig Moffitt.
Craig.
Matty, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing good. Craig's on a little hiatus video today because he's doing double duty. He's dadding and podcasting all at the same time. So if Craig disappears for a moment, don't worry. I'll vamp. I'll cover it. There won't be any dead air. But Craig is going to be off camera for a little bit today, maybe the whole episode, which is sad because we don't get to see his beautiful face. How you been, Craig? You been good?
Yeah, man. Just, it's tough because when one kid is out with their friends, the other kid gets jealous. So you gotta make time. So just been out for the day, but they're not back yet. So my 6-year-old daughter, I hope she's safe.
She's fine.
Watching the YouTube and everything is good. She's not watching our friggin' show, but that's okay.
You got to wonder, I mean, it's amazing. Our parents, you got to really give them a pat on the back. If you had a kid before the internet, you did way more parenting than kids that came after the internet and handheld devices and crap like that. Like my parents couldn't just hand me a little TV to watch.
Dude, my mom would make me work for that shit. That wasn't even about I had to literally I had to
walk uphill in the snow with no shoes when I went to school as a young man.
Like my mom would be like, I was like, Mom, if I get an A in this class, can I get this? And she's like, fuck no. She goes, you're supposed to do well in school. I'm not bribing you with this shit. Her words exactly, by the way.
There you go. Smart. All right. So let's get party started here. Thank you, Andrew WK, as always, for that open. We will not be talking hockey today, although I will say this: good win by the Islanders the other day to get back in that series. And the Rangers are just dominating the Devils. I didn't think,
bro, the Devils are pathetic.
Well, I thought the Rangers would win the series, but I didn't think they'd go 5-1, 5-1 on the road. Now, granted, it's not really a road game because they're playing in stupid Jersey, but you know what I mean? But still, I didn't think they'd go 5-1, 5-1. That's 6-1, whatever it was.
Thing is, they're a very dangerous team. Their scoring, each line is going to kill you.
In
whether
different
it's
ways too, right?
Yeah, Zibanejad, Panarin, and they got Kane and Tarasenko, who's rejuvenated now since playing for St. Louis, who was terrible this year.
Right.
Shesterkin's one of the top goalies in the league. I mean, they're a very dangerous team. The Devils, to me, always felt like a little bit of a soft 4.
Right.
Just because, they have some good players. They're also really young. That's what everybody forgets about the Devils. Some of their best scorers are 21 years old. Didn't they have a 15-game winning streak in the beginning or middle of the season? Yeah, they got off to a really, really strong start. I think if they get embarrassed out of the playoffs, I think their coach is going to get fired.
Wow.
Because when you're a 4 and you're that good of a team and you pretty much held off and you won the season series with the Rangers too. So a lot of people forget.
Yeah.
You can't get your ass kicked like that. And now you're going into hostile territory tonight at Madison Square Garden. That place is going to be rocking.
Well, if it was anything like it was last night, it's definitely going to be rocking. The hockey fans always bring it a little bit too. And listen, if the Rangers do make it, maybe let's say the the what's the round before the Stanley Cup championship?
The final, like the conference finals, and then
Conference
it goes
final?
to the championship.
Maybe we'll bring on my sister Kelly.
No,
Ranger fan.
I can't talk
about it.
I can't talk to Ranger fans.
And we'll go from there. All right, let's kick
I
it
was
off.
happy. Honestly, I was happy the Islanders won last night.
I would imagine so. You're an Islander fan. I would hope so.
I think it's like I'm so tempted to. I wanted to try to get tickets to one of the games, like Game 3 or 4. I knew Game 3 was going to be ridiculously expensive,
right?
But I thought maybe Game 4 wouldn't be too bad. But UBS Arena was rocking last night, and for our fan base, and like my wife's cousin made a really good point. He said, if you live outside of Long Island, unless you were born and raised in Long Island, I don't know, like there's no way anybody could be a fan of the Islanders unless they were like literally born and raised on Long Island.
That's fair.
And it's just like you understand it a lot more, and like they're very passionate about the team. It's just that, sometimes I think the Islanders still live in the past. They're always bringing Nystrom out for, right. Wherever he's at these days. And, they're running out of guys because, God, of course, I hate to say this, but Clark Gillies passed away. Mike Bossy passed away.
Right.
You're running out of veterans here, man.
When you win, when you win in the 80s, eventually those guys aren't going to be around anymore to bring back for special days.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it does get to be a little touchy, but listen, who knows with the Islanders? You do have to be from Long Island. I don't know. I don't think there's anybody who like lives in Texas who's like an Islander fan just randomly, right? Unless they're from Long Island,
Long Island,
or they have family members from Long Island who imprinted it upon them at a young age, right? Like they have to have some connection.
Nothing's funnier though if you watch highlights from like the Islanders playing like the Edmonton Oilers. They score a goal and there's this one Islander fan. They find the one Islander fan in this arena that's going ape shit because they scored a goal. It's actually really funny to watch.
All right. Let's move over to the round ball on the hard court, shall we? We had the Nets did lose today, so they did get the old sweeperoo. I mean, listen, nobody thought they were beating the 76ers. I never thought they did. I thought it'd be a gentleman's sweep. I thought they'd get one game. You got Embiid was out today with a knee. They think he'll be back sometime next week. And listen, the Nets shouldn't have won this series. Now, should they have won a game? Probably. But this isn't embarrassing for them. In fact, the fact that they made the playoffs after getting rid of Kyrie and KD, I think is a huge upswing for them. And again, we talked about this last week. Your GM is great at what he's about to do because he did it already. He did it with less draft picks than he has now. And he was able to create a really, really good team. Plus, he already has some pieces in place. I think some of the guys you got in those trades are going to be the centerpieces for what they build going forward.
I'm pretty happy with the way. Look, you don't want to get swept in the playoffs, of course.
Right.
I mean, that's
especially to Philly. Stupid fucking Philly. Get out of here.
Especially Game 4 without Joel Embiid, who didn't play today.
Who should have been ejected in the last game, by the way. Like, let me just get this out of the way, and I'll say it, Craig, because I'm a Knick fan. So I don't want people to think that you're just blaming refs. The idea that Claxton got tossed out of that Game 4, taunting when Dylan Brooks didn't even get a technical for staring down LeBron the entire way down the court, and that Embiid can kick somebody in the ding ding and get nothing. I don't care if Claxton steps over you. Let him get the technical for doing that. He kicked him up in the balls, and if that's Draymond, he's out for the rest of the playoffs. It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy to me that he got nothing.
It was really frustrating because I actually thought the Nets matched up fairly well with them. I just think the more I was watching the stat sheet, the more I was watching the game, I don't know if it's a case of Jacques Vaughn just not having faith in his bench. I don't know what it was because the rotations were just so strange. Even today, you had Dinwiddie playing 40 minutes. When has Dinwiddie played 40 minutes a game in his career?
Maybe college?
Maybe, but it's like he's not a 40-minute player. But like it's almost like Vaughn was stuck in the Durant Kyrie phase, like in a weird way, because those are the guys who are going to play the most minutes. Mikal Bridges doesn't play 39 minutes a night, neither does Cam Johnson. And even the other game in Game 3, he only played 7 players the whole game.
Right.
He played all 5 guys for the majority of the game. And you have Dorian Finney-Smith playing almost 40 minutes in Game 3 and only getting 3 points. And then the worst part about it was the only guy who played over 15 minutes off the bench was Royce O'Neal. Everyone else was a DNP coach's decision. I think the only other guy who played was Seth Curry. So it's just,
you think that's sorry to interrupt, but you think that that's that playoff mentality, right? Where like you have a wide sort of rotation during the regular season, but as soon as the postseason hits, that rotation gets knocked down to like 7-8 guys. Do you think he just got caught in that mentality when he didn't have the players to do that?
Yeah, I think so. And the only other logical explanation for it is because this is the 4 that they want to move forward with Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Dorian Finney-Smith, and Nick Claxton. Now, yes, they do need a center next year, and I think Marks is going to tweak it. They have 2 first-round picks this year. Fine, it's good to just be back in the draft.
Right.
So, right now, if the season ended the way it was, they would be picking back-to-back, like 20 and 21 or something like that.
Okay.
But
maybe you can pass those with a guy to move up a little bit if there's a guy.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, but I think, number one, the fact that Cam Thomas didn't play is just outright absurd. He didn't even play. He didn't play today, which I think is just ridiculous. Like, the guy had 3 40-point games, and for some reason you don't think he should play. I mean, he's healthy, so I don't really get it. Like, I don't.
Didn't he bench him in the season after he had those 40-point games? Not bench him, but he relegated him to the bench mostly. I mean,
that was more because they had made the deals to get Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson and Spencer Dinwiddie. So Durant was still out. They had just traded Kyrie, so Dinwiddie hadn't even gotten there yet,
right?
And everything. But overall, listen, I'm proud of what the Nets accomplished, especially amidst all the drama and everything this season. Just the Kyrie drama was enough. The Kevin Durant drama was enough, and the injuries and all that stuff. So to make it and avoid the play-in, which is what I really wanted at the end of the day, I just wanted them to avoid the play-in,
right?
And they accomplished that. So I'm really happy about that and everything. I love when Marks has a roster that he's just going to build, because like you said, he is very good at it. He's had some really good draft picks over the last few years, good first-round picks. And now he's back in the draft, which I think is what he wants. Now, I keep hearing a lot of this. And again, we talk about rumors all the time and all, like, what's real, what isn't real, what's bullshit, what's truth, and everything. And the fact is I don't think the Nets are going to go down that star player road right now, at least not yet.
I wouldn't.
I don't want anything to do with Zach LaVine, because he's always the first guy that's rumored to be available in a deal. I don't want any of those guys. The Nets learned their lesson from the Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving drama. I think right now the way you are is you have a fairly good young nucleus. You have Mikal Bridges, who emerged as a bit of a star for this team. Now, whether it continues into the 23-24 season remains to be seen. But he's been given free reign, which is what he didn't have in Phoenix because of Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and Chris Paul. So he's the guy. Like, he is the guy now in Brooklyn. And he's taken on that role and he's thrived. So I like where it's going moving up. I like where they're headed. I'm curious to see how the offseason pans out. I do think the roster is going to change a bit. And we'll take it from there. I mean, but overall, I mean, I hated the fact that Vaughn went to that 6-person rotation, because like I said, guys like Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, I just think they ran out of gas.
Right. Yeah.
I just think that's what it was, because they're just not used to playing 40 minutes a night. I mean, that's insane. So, but a good season all around. It is what it is. We'll see what happens with the offseason, and that's it.
Yeah. And, it'll be interesting. And as, again, there's very few GMs who can find diamonds in the rough like your GM can. He's done it many times, and I think he'll be able to do it again. And so we'll see how that pans out. Now let's move to the other team across town. The Knicks had a big win last night, their first home win in the playoffs. So they're up 2-1 in the series. And
you seem a little torn.
No, I'm not torn, because I've always thought that they could beat the Cavs. I don't think they're going to win another series after this one. I'm not even sure they're going to win this one. I still think they can beat the Cavs. My thing is that, like, a couple things. Grimes got hurt, so I'm not really sure what that is. And people might be like, whoa, it's Grimes. That guy's a really good defender. And if he can make it so that Jalen Brunson doesn't have to play Donovan Mitchell and things like that, then that takes a huge weight off of Brunson's shoulders, right? Defensively, and he can focus offensively. And he's also a pretty good three-point shooter. So we'll see how that pans out. RJ Barrett had one of those games. And this thing about RJ Barrett, man, when he drives to the hoop in the beginning of the game, he usually has a decent shooting game as well. When he starts out just trying to shoot jump shots, it usually goes the other way. And he's such a physical guy. Like, between him and Julius Randle, they can really punish a defense just by driving to the basket because they're so physical in nature. Mm-hmm. But the thing that really pointed out last night was, Craig, I guess I've always talked about it, the Knicks needing a point guard. Like, we've been talking about it for years, right? Every year we talk about how the Knicks don't have a point guard. The Knicks don't have a point guard. The Knicks don't have a point guard. And they went out and got a point guard, and you can see the fucking difference in how this team plays down the stretch, right? Like, when the game starts to get crazy, you have a guy who can get it back under control. If the other team goes on a run, you have a guy who can just take the ball in his hands and either dish it, find the right play, make the right basketball play to get your team back running. You know what I mean? It's not always going to work. They lost game 2, but like, it's crazy to me how different this team is when Julius Randle isn't the fucking point guard by default, right? Like, it's just so much better to watch, so much more fun to watch, even though it's still sort of ISO basketball. But at least with Brunson, there's that chance that he might pass out of it. Where with Julius, once he starts dribbling, that's it. It's over. Say goodnight.
My thought on game 3 was, it wasn't that I thought the Knicks played great. I mean, I thought they played really well. Mm-hmm. Wasn't blown away. I guess I was expecting a little bit more, and I couldn't really tell if it was more the Cavs beating themselves because they couldn't hit a shot for their life.
Well, there was that.
And I think the Cavs went into that game rattled. I think that crowd really got to them. I think it got under their skin a little bit. Donovan Mitchell didn't have a great game yesterday. Okoro was terrible. Darius Garland was missing shots.
Oh, it's terrible. Like, he was bad. I mean, at one point he was like 218.
Yeah, like, it was just. And the thing was, like, I think the coach knew that. Like, I think he knew that they were just like, it just wasn't going to happen. And he went to his bench, and the bench wasn't much better. And they just really couldn't, it was like, remember in Bull Durham when Crash Davis says to him, he goes, well, I hear you couldn't hit water if you fell out of a fucking boat.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like for the Cavs. They had so much trouble. And the thing was, Julius Randle was terrible yesterday. He was 3 of 15 from the field.
He was not good.
It was a brutally bad game. Wasn't Brunson's greatest game yesterday. Barrett had a big game, and I remember Knick fans running his ass out of town 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that's
because they'd had enough of RJ Barrett.
You know how I feel about Knicks. They're idiots.
But you mentioned it last week when we were doing the show is that the Knicks bench is deep. Josh Hart was good off the bench, quickly good off the bench, and that's the difference sometimes.
Obi Toppin.
Think about
it. Corner 3, couple dunks. You get the crowd into it, right? Like, sometimes all you need is Obi Toppin to do a dunk to get the crowd back into the game if they're a little light, Yeah,
because the starters weren't great yesterday. Randle was pretty. Yeah,
Randle was excellent. I mean, it's all good.
Randle was brutal. It wasn't, like I said, wasn't Brunson's greatest game, but he played well. Barrett had a great game from the field. So, I mean, he had a solid game all around from the field. I think the Cavs sort of beat themselves because they just couldn't hit a shot for their life.
Yeah.
And now maybe they're a different team come game 4.
Right.
I don't know, especially after they beat the Knicks in game 2 by 17.
Right.
But I mean, I don't know what to expect, but I had a feeling the Garden crowd, because you knew the Garden crowd was going to be just fired up. I mean, you knew it was just going to be deafening in that arena last night.
It was loud.
And I think it rattled them, man. I really think it rattled them. 100%.
And listen, if you think tomorrow night's not going to be just as loud, it's going to be just as loud. And there were a couple signature plays where you could tell the crowd really took into it, right? Like the Randall had a big dunk, Toppin had a big dunk and foul. So there was a couple plays in there. And look, the defense was good last night. It wasn't great. It was more just that Cleveland was just missing, like straight up missing shots, like wide open.
79 points. They lost by 20 and they only scored 79 points.
And I was watching the MSG broadcast because if Walt Clyde Frazier's doing the game, I'm listening to that version of it. And he said something very when you listen to Walt, like if you get through all the, dishing and swishing and all that stuff, which I love, don't get me wrong. But if you get to his like straight analysis of the game, it's amazingly bang on almost all the time. And at a certain point, it was like in the middle of the third quarter, he just goes, I don't understand why Donovan Mitchell isn't just trying to take over this game. Because like the rest of your, like that's
what you brought him in for.
Right, but
I
that's is when you want that guy to sort of like be the ball hog, is when the rest of the team just can't hit a shot. There you go, Donovan. Nobody else can hit a shot. Here, just keep taking shots. Hey, keep taking shots until you can't hit them anymore, and then we'll figure something else out. But the fact that he didn't try to take over that game worries me a little bit about him, because you'd think that this would be the place where he would want to do that, right? Like, he's a New York guy. Right? Like, you think the Garden wouldn't affect him in that way, like the same way it might some of these other guys. And you thought at some point he would just be like, all right, I'm just taking the ball every time, just straight to the hoop. And he didn't.
I mean,
didn't
honestly, his leadership skills to me were kind of questionable, because that's what he should have did.
Right.
When you saw the game, you saw the fact that your teammates were just laying bricks all night. I mean, you got to sometimes just put the game on your shoulders, and maybe that's what's going to spark your team a little bit.
Yeah.
And
then instead it was it's not Spencer Dinwiddie, the other guy who's on the Nets.
Karis LeVert.
Karis LeVert came out, hit a couple threes, had a nice little drive, like, and one. So like, he sort of took that role for a couple minutes, and then they took him out of the game because he's just a bench player, right? Like, it surprised me that Donovan Mitchell at one point didn't just say, I'm taking the ball, I'm taking every shot for the rest of the game, y'all just sit back and watch. And he didn't do it, which is good for me because the Knicks won. And so they
exactly. And I mean, the thing is, they won by 20.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't even like close. And it wasn't even their best night either. No. That was the crazy part. Like, we've seen the Knicks all season long put up just humongous games, and this was an off night. This is on many levels considered an off night for them, and they still won by 20 because the Cavs couldn't make a shot.
Right.
And the thing is, the Cavs are a good team. I've always kind of felt they were a little bit of a soft number 4 for some reason. Like, I didn't love them. And I figured against the Knicks, I think the Knicks could definitely beat them in a series.
Well, I think the East is very simple, right? You have your top 3 teams, and then there's everybody else. And I think everybody else is sort of in the same sort of jumble, right? The Heat, the Knicks, the Cavs, the Hawks, right? Like, all those teams are sort of in the same sort of blender, right? They might be a little different how they do it, but they're all sort of like average to slightly above average, where then you get to like the 76ers, the Celtics, and the Bucks, and those teams are like a significant step better. So I think that's why you get that. It was just who just won a couple more games during the season. Like, the Knicks could have very easily been the 4 seed.
Easily.
It was just the Cavs instead, so like, but listen, Knicks win, let's just keep winning, man. Win tomorrow, like, put all the pressure on Cleveland. That way, when you go to Cleveland in game 5, game 6, no, game 5.
No. Yeah, game 5 is Cleveland.
Yeah, when you go to Cleveland for game 5, you're sort of playing with house money, right? Like, you don't have to win that game, and then you can come back and close that out at the Garden. Win tomorrow night. Let's just take some of that pressure off, and then put more of the pressure on Cleveland, because they were expected when they made the Donovan Mitchell trade. Everybody was talking about them as being a contender, and I just don't know if I see it right now. I really don't.
I feel like they're missing something. There's something missing on that team, and I just don't know what it is.
You know what it is? It's just like a Joe Ingles or somebody like that, right? Like, just like a dude who just
stands,
just straight up spot shooter, just straight up guy who just stands behind the 3-point line, right? Like a Duncan Robinson, but a guy who can actually shoot. You know what I mean? But that type of player where his only, like, a guy who takes more threes than twos, right? Like, that's what they need. So that Donovan Mitchell has somebody
like John Starks,
right?
You need like a John Starks,
yeah. So if they got somebody like that, it'd be better, because it would also open up the middle. Because the problem is you have Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. They're basically the same guy. Now, Mitchell's a better version of that guy, but they're the dribble, drive, spot up shot, that sort of thing, where they're creating their own shot. They need the guy who's just standing out on the perimeter who can just hit that wide open 3. And if they have that, it's going to make that team a lot better, because the center's good. They got, but
I always wondered if that was LeVert, because LeVert is a very good outside shooter.
He is, but he comes off the bench. He doesn't start. They need their 3 to be that guy, right? They need their whatever you want to call it, right? The not power forward, but the small forward to be that guy, because Garland and Mitchell are the 1 and 2. So I think that's what they need. They don't have it, and they're forced to get difficult shots a lot of the time. It makes it hard, especially because say what you want about the Knicks, like, a lot of those shots they missed were wide open, but the Knicks do play a hard brand of defense, and they are sort of relentless on the defensive end. They're trying to contest every shot, and they very rarely have down like series on defense, because if they don't play well on defense, Thibodeau's taking them out no matter what they're doing on the offensive end. So they always got to play defense.
You are listening to the Polar Opposites podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Polar Oppo. You can follow us on Instagram at Polar Oppo Pod. You can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts. Like, comment, leave us a 5-star review because it makes us feel oh so special at the end of the day to keep doing this, I guess. But okay, Maddie, we're done talking basketball.
Yes.
So here's what we're going to do: some draft stuff now.
Yeah, real quick because we don't have a lot to do.
We're not
draft people. We're not like draft Knicks.
Yeah, we're not Mel Kiper Jr. We're not Mel Kiper Jr. and Todd McShay.
Right.
Doing a podcast here. So we'll do some quick things. I have a little bit of a unique way to kind of talk about the draft. Then after that, we can either do. I want to have a little friendly debate about the movie Little Giants.
Sure.
So something we're new that we're going to try to do. We're going to try to put a little bit more into some sports movies to talk about and all that stuff because there are just some funny things. And I happened to catch something yesterday in like Major League, and it just kind of Major League was on TV yesterday.
Oh, hell yeah.
And like the thing was, I was like at the end, because remember how we were talking about the Oakland A's last week? And I said that we thought that the owner was secretly having the team try to suck so he can move them to Vegas.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, she can't move them to Cleveland because they sold out the freaking stadium for the playoff game. And then the other thing I asked myself was, how the hell did they get a home playoff game against the Yankees when they were in last place all season? There's so many funny things that just like go like under the radar.
I thought it was like a 1-game playoff to get into the playoffs.
It was like but it was like then the Yankees had to have completely collapsed because the Yankees were like the defending champions from the year before.
And don't look at the movies. It's like people that try and tell me that Jack would have fit on the stupid door in Titanic. It's a movie. It's supposed to end with him dying, so he has to die. Suck it up.
Well, Rose killed him. Come on.
And that's fair, but still, if that's how the movie has to end, stop trying to make my movies logical. Okay, everyone, stop. Okay, if he lives, the end of the movie sucks. There's no nothing. Anyway,
so we're gonna do the draft now. Then we're gonna do In Case You Missed It. We have 4 topics for In Case You Missed It this week, and then we can either close with the debate or we could flip the debate and then In Case You Missed It. So
let's do the debate next, and then we'll do close with In Case You Missed It.
Okay. So on that note, let's talk a little NFL draft this Thursday, one of my favorite times of the year. This is when I kind of cut off all contact from the family and just watch picks because I just like watching the NFL draft. I am a complete glutton for punishment. That's just how I roll. So obviously no movement on the Rodgers thing. And I will be very honest, this week, I started to get nervous, man. I'm not going to lie. I was starting to get a little nervous about this deal possibly falling through. And I was listening to a few Jets podcast guys and everything, you know, like I do like listening to some of the Jets podcast guys. And, you know, they seem pretty committed to the fact that the deal is going to happen. And I think it probably will. I would be surprised if it didn't. And then I sat there and I was listening and I kind of said to myself, man, if this deal falls through, I don't think I could be a fan anymore. Like really, like, and I know it sounds like pathetic when I say that, and you probably wouldn't believe me anyway, but I was like, I don't know. I think this season would be like torpedoed because it's a domino effect. It starts at the top, but the players are going to be so freaking demoralized that I don't feel like they're going to put their best effort on the field.
You cannot. I'll say it one more time for effect. You cannot have what's his name start at quarterback for the Jets. You cannot. He cannot start for the Jets. You've had players on the team openly campaigning for another quarterback to start for their team. He cannot start for the Jets. So if you don't get Rodgers, and here's the thing that should worry you if you're a Jet fan. Here's the only thing that should worry you if you're a Jet fan, and that's the fact that the 49ers are looking at offers for his name is escaping me.
Trey Lance.
Thank you, Trey Lance. Because if they're looking for offers for Trey Lance, they don't trust me. You can believe them when they say Brock Purdy is going to be our starting quarterback. Stop.
See, I don't think, but that's the thing. I don't think Rodgers is going to go there. I don't know why. I just don't think he's going to go there. And the thing is, Trey Lance has no value. He has literally zero value right now because he's been hurt for a year and a half.
I understand that, but teams have apparently been calling about him, so he must have some value. Now, if you're the 49ers, you may choose to say, I don't care. I'd rather have, if I can get Aaron Rodgers, it's worth sort of losing that value or whatever you want to call it from Trey Lance. If you're Aaron Rodgers, I'm sorry. Like, I'm going to the 49ers. Now, you'd still want to go to the Jets because they're to me, talent-wise, they're about the same, right? I mean, maybe the 49ers a little bit just because they have more experience. You know, their guys have been to a Super Bowl, that sort of thing. But from a talent perspective, it's sort of up in the air for me. But the fact that they're sort of sniffing around at this point should worry Jet fans just a tiny bit. I still think it's going to happen. And I think the fact that the Jets are
the reason why I don't think it's going to happen, but the reason why I don't think the 49er deal is going to happen is because not only do the 49ers have a first round pick this year, they don't have a second round pick either. They don't pick until the bottom of the third round, which is like, and it's
first round pick.
Yeah, but that's also going to be, I mean, again, you're talking about a bottom first round pick at that point.
You're talking about that with the Jets too.
And I agree. And we've been over this. Like, I don't have a problem trading next year's one. Like, I've said that.
Hang up with the Jets. So if they can get past that hang up, I think when this deal happens, I think it's going to happen on draft night to make a big spectacle out of the whole thing. The Jets will trade for Aaron Rodgers. He'll go to the Jets. It'll be a whole thing. And then they'll pick at number 13. And hopefully, if they're smart, they will take an offensive lineman with that pick because they need to shore up that offense.
Yeah, no, I think that's like a lot of, from what I'm hearing, is a lineman is pretty much like a slam dunk. I think it's just out of one of the four between Peter Skoronski, Roderick Jones, Paris Johnson, and there's another guy. I just can't remember his name. But the draft is really tricky. What's that?
When in doubt for me, I always go with the guy with the last name Ski at the end of it.
A Polish guy?
Yeah, big, fat Polish offensive line dude. They're usually crazy strong and ridiculously insane.
I mean, something tells me that like the draft is going to be really tricky just because, you know, we don't know where the quarterbacks are going in the first round. They could go in the top 10. You know, you have there's plenty of teams in the first 10 picks that might need a quarterback. So you might see some kind of a lot of shuffling of the deck. I think the Panthers are set on Bryce Young from what I read as their number one pick. That they've canceled. Bryce Young canceled all of his other visits apparently after the Panthers. So I think that's what's going to be the case. But
and then you hear like, this is my favorite time of year, Craig, trying to wade through all the nonsense and malarkey of like people trying to tell me, oh, the Carolina Panthers, we don't like any of the quarterbacks. We may not take a quarterback this year.
They do it. Every team does that. Every team does that.
Just stop. You're telling me out of the 5 quarterbacks that people are predicting go in the first 2 rounds, you don't like any of them? And there's one of almost every kind. There's a pocket passer. There's a couple guys who can run. There's all sorts of different kinds. Like, and maybe unless Bryce Young is the guy you wanted, but like, come on, man, then trade out of the spot.
Here's a funny thing though. So this week I was watching like some of like a lot of the Pat stuff from the Twitter feed is like Packer stuff.
Right.
And you want to talk about Packer fans making such a big deal that Jordan Love walked into to the building for OTAs. Ugh. And this one Packer podcast, and I'll just chalk it up to people from Wisconsin. I guess they're just, you know, they're like, you know, that's what I like to see. I like to see a quarterback coming in for OTAs. He's a true leader. Yeah. And I literally almost cracked up when I heard that. It was like, you know, Aaron Rodgers didn't come to OTAs for the last 2 years. And I'm like, did he have a reason to come to OTAs? I was like, who makes a big deal about voluntary OTAs?
When your guy is a Hall of Fame quarterback, that'd be like being mad if Tom Brady didn't go to freaking stupid OTAs. Like, get out of here, man.
But like, imagine what happens, right? Imagine what happens if Rodgers gets hurt at OTAs. Like, you know, just like he drops back to pass.
OTAs? What you doing there?
Oh, the NFL has to take a look at this. This is unacceptable. You know, why do we have to have OTAs in the middle of April? I mean, come on. It was so laughable. And I'm like, look, Packer fans at this point, Packer beat writers at this point, they are trying so hard, way too hard, to just be like, Jordan Love is so much better of a quarterback than Aaron Rodgers ever was. And it's so laughable when you watch them like talk about it. They are making a big deal about literally Jordan Love walking from his car to the front door of the team facility. And I'm like, listen, I get Aaron Rodgers is who he is personality-wise, but for the last 2 years when he wasn't really at OTAs, were you really that butthurt about it? Were you really that like salty about the fact that he wasn't there?
But Craig, it's like, the can't win crowd. It's the people you cannot win with, right? Because if he goes and gets hurt, they're going to be pissed. If he doesn't go, they're going to be pissed. What they want is for him to go and not do anything, right? Like they just want him to be there, but that's stupid. And here's the thing. They have to be excited about Jordan Love because it's going to be the first time in like 30 years that the team is absolutely going to be irrelevant. Like they're going to be irrelevant if Rodgers is not on that team.
But what
They're
made it even
still winning the games.
What made it even funny was like somebody put a video of Jordan Love. I think might have been one of the games that he actually played in like regular season, not preseason.
Sure.
And they're like, if a quarterback can make a throw like this, we really have something. Yeah, it went out of bounds. It's like somebody wrote back, like somebody commented on it, like, dude, the throw went out of bounds. Like the guy wasn't even close to the line. And I'm like, look, Packer fans, I get it. Rodgers was a pain in the ass the last 2 years. You sure as shit didn't mind when he was slinging touchdowns and everything. And he still almost got you to the playoffs without the greatest, talent around him. But it's like, you guys are trying too hard to sell the world that, Jordan Love is going to be this incredible quarterback. And the thing is, we don't know what he is yet. And we won't know till the games are for real.
Craig, I can tell you what he is. You want to know what he is? He's not going to be very good. You want to know how I know that? Because if he was really, really good, they would have gotten rid of Aaron Rodgers 3 years ago when he wanted to leave the first time he was bitching about this crap. So they would have done that then. But
they just try.
Jordan Love sucks. So they're like, oh, Aaron Rodgers, please stay because Jordan Love sucks. We were wrong to take him at 24. We were wrong. We should have taken a wide receiver. We're sorry. Here's
it just made me laugh.
I mean, get out of here.
It just made me laugh that, like I said, Packer fans, Packer beat writers, they are trying so hard. Like it's almost embarrassing in a way because it's like, look.
Yeah, but all fans do that, though. All fans do that. Come on,
like
they all do that.
Like when they were showing the video of Jordan Love, I could have easily went back with a video of Sam Darnold throwing that pass to Braxton Berrios on the run, like when Gase was the coach a couple of years ago. Yeah. And like every quarter, even a blind squirrel finds a nut. So it's like, it doesn't really matter.
Throw for crying.
Yeah, like I mean, even now it's like I go, oh, when I saw that throw, I'm like, yes, it was a great throw, but it's like, I hope that isn't like yep, that's my guy off that one freaking throw.
It doesn't matter. They're going to suck this year because Jordan Love's going to suck and they have no offensive weapons because they never needed them because Aaron Rodgers could make anybody a decent wide receiver and they're just going to be terrible. The Jets need to draft a offensive lineman because Aaron Rodgers is going to be their quarterback. The Giants are a little bit different. They don't have quite like they definitely
find a need right now for the Giants.
Well, they have needs, but like to me at 24, you just take best.
Well, hold that thought. We're going to get to that in a minute. So rather than go on and on about who's going to take this pick, who's going to take that pick or whatever, Matt is not a big fan of tests. I love making them up. I used to do this on my other show, Moffat on the Mic. So in honor of the NFL draft, I've put together a little exam for Matty. Now, here's the beautiful thing. There's no wrong answer.
That's not true. There's always wrong.
There's no wrong answers.
All right.
This is just, consider this being graded on a 100% curve.
Let's do it.
Okay. So I have 10 questions.
Okay.
It is a mix. The first 4 are multiple choice.
Okay.
And the last 6 are true or false. And then just kind of like at the end, you're going to tell me who you want to take if you're the Giants general manager.
Cool. Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here we go.
All right.
NFL draft exam starts now. I should have had you like have some music or something like, I don't know, kids sweating out a freaking exam or something like that. Okay. No. Jeopardy sucks. All right. Number 1.
You just opened up a can of worms on that one.
Jeopardy does suck.
Listen.
It's only the SNL Celebrity Jeopardy with Sean Connery is great.
I'll take the rapists.
Number 1. The team most likely to make a trade out of their spot in the first round will be A, the Colts, B, the Cardinals, C, the Patriots, or D, the Jets.
I'm going to say, what was B?
Cardinals.
I'm going to say the Cardinals.
At number 3, by the way.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of rumors circulated that they could be moving out of that spot.
Yeah, because they don't need a quarterback. Well, they should get a quarterback, but they don't need a quarterback, and they have tons of need. So them trading out there to get more draft capital would be a good idea.
You know what's funny, man? I'm going to say the Patriots because they do it all the time. They always trade down. Last year, I don't think they traded down. I think they actually stayed where they were. but they always find a way to trade out of the spot that they're in because Belichick just never likes to stay in that spot. He just likes to acquire picks. It's like what Bill Parcells used to do a lot of times when he was when he used to be the GM with the Jets and then with the Cowboys. He used to love to acquire picks. So for some reason, I think Belichick will do it again. I think the Patriots pick right after the Jets. I think they pick 14th.
Okay.
So I could definitely see that as a possibility, unless they find somebody they really like, and then it remains to be seen. But I could easily see Belichick moving out of that pick in their spot in the first round. Okay, number 2. If the Jets and Packers finalize a trade for Aaron Rodgers during the draft, it will be A, on day 1, B, on day 2, C, on day 3, or D, the trade will not be done during draft weekend.
A.
You think it's going to be day 1?
For that trade, you want it to be day 1. You want Goodell. There's been a trade. You know, you want Goodell making that announcement, not some rando.
Well, here's the funny thing, right? So did you see the story that came out this week about the number 13 pick?
No.
So this is like a well-played Joe Douglas move. The Jets are allowing a kid from a Make-A-Wish Foundation who just recovered from cancer to announce the 13th pick in the NFL draft. So all the Packer fans came out on Twitter. They're like, you know, Joe Douglas, that's pretty fucking low even for you.
That's what they do, man.
I was like, well played, JD. Well played. I was like, because you're not going to let a kid with the Make-A-Wish Foundation go, oh, we traded the pick to the Packers for Aaron Rodgers.
See, but I don't think it would be trading the 13th pick. I don't think it'd be doing that. I think the trade's going to happen in the first round, but I don't think it's going to be when the Jets are on the clock because they're not trading that pick.
No, I know, but it was like all the Packer fans who thought they were going to get the number 13 pick were basically like, yeah, well, now that a Make-A-Wish kid is doing it, there goes that idea. it was really funny. I'm going to be honest. I think it's going to be day 2 because if number 13 is not in the equation, then I could see it being closer to day 2 pick. The Packers cannot let it go past 43 unless the guys that they draft are part of the deal.
Right.
But I don't know. Can that happen?
Sure.
No. What I mean is if you draft a player, oh yeah, because it did with the Manning Rivers deal. Okay. Yeah. Because I couldn't figure it out at first if that happened. I don't know if there was like kind of tricky with that. The Packers can't let it get past 43. So otherwise they're just going to get 24 assets, which by then I think will be more comfortable. I think the Jets will be more comfortable trading a 24 first if they're able to keep all their 23 picks. But
if it doesn't happen by the 43rd pick, it's not going to happen.
You don't think so?
No, because the draft capital will be terrible the year after.
Yeah.
It's going to be all late picks.
All right, number 3, the most pressing need for the Giants in the first round is A, offensive line, B, safety, C, wide receiver, or D, running back.
I think it should be offensive line. I think they're thinking wide receiver, so I'm going to say wide receiver.
I actually think it's safety. Because who's their starting safeties this year besides Xavier McKinney?
They have a couple, but most of the guys were from the team last year because Julian Love left. So they need guys. They do need a safety, but I think they're going to try and get safety second, third round, unless one of the like top guys falls, right? Because that could definitely happen. But I think if like Zay Flowers is still there at 24, they're taking him. I really do.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. I just think that if it's a pressing need, I think safety, because I think their offensive line, well, they did lose Feliciano, and I think they lost. Did they lose Nick Gates also?
Yeah, he went to the commies.
So maybe offensive line actually becomes a little bit more of a need.
The problem though is that they need center or interior offensive line, and you can usually find those guys in the second, third round. Now you can do that with wide receiver as well. It's just you're depending on how you, and it depends on what, like, because I don't know if there's tons of interior offensive linemen who are graded high enough to go at pick 24. So we'll see how that works out. I don't know.
I mean, they're linked to the kid, they're linked to the center from Minnesota, John Michael Schmitz.
Right.
Taking him at 24 wouldn't be a bad move because you're probably not going to get him in the second round anyway.
Maybe it's a little high though, from what I understand, a little high. You'd be reaching a little bit. from what I understand.
All right, number 4, again, multiple choice. The team that needs to have a strong draft based on needs to their roster is A, the Colts, B, the Packers, C, the Titans, or D, the Cardinals. Makes you think, huh?
I mean, it does. Here's what I would say. I'm going to say the Titans. And the only reason I'm going to say the Titans is because out of all the teams you just mentioned, the Titans have the best chance of competing for a playoff spot, right? Like the Packers and not the Cardinals. What was the other team? The Colts. The Packers and Colts are not going to be good this year. They're just not. You can try and tell me different, but they're probably not going to be good. And the Cardinals might be good, but Kyler Murray's going to come back late. So to me, the Titans need to get offensive weapons so that Derrick Henry can be somebody who batters defenses, not defenses just sitting there waiting for Derrick Henry. That's all.
See, for me, I'm going to say it's the Packers because the idea is to give Jordan Love as many weapons as you can. Because right now, all you really have is Christian Watson. And they keep talking about the
game, though. They have a decent running game.
Yeah, they do. Aaron Jones wasn't that great, though, last year. A.J. Dillon was fine. And the one thing they don't have that the Packer offense really thrives on is that really good pass-catching tight end. You know, they used to have that, back in the days of Keith Jackson, Mark Chmura, even Tanyan wasn't terrible last year. But I'm missing a guy before him that was actually pretty good. And I like the guy from Notre Dame, Michael Mayer, who's supposed to be really one guy who absolutely loves Michael Mayer is Francesa.
The singer?
Absolutely. No, that's John Mayer, you idiot. Right?
I don't know.
But, they definitely need another wide receiver to pair with Watson. They could use a tight end. They could use maybe some offensive line help. And I think if they're really serious about competing this year, which, again, we don't really know because it's going to be a transition going from a Hall of Famer to a major question mark, I think the Packers really have to have a strong draft.
The Packers will not. They're going to compete for last place in that division. That's what they're going to compete for. Oh, yeah. Well, listen, the Lions are better.
The tide's turning in that division, by the way, because I'm not sure the Vikings are going to be that good next year either.
Well, but the Vikings are still better than the Packers because right now, at least, say what you want about the quarterback, but he's better than Jordan Love, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the Lions, which are significantly better. So I don't know. I just don't think the Packers are going to be very good this year.
All right, true or false? The Giants will draft a running back by day 2 in case the Saquon Barkley talks stall.
False.
You think a deal's going to get done, or Barkley's just going to sign the franchise?
Either one of those, but I think if they draft a running back, unless the top guy is still there, they're not going to draft a running back until 3, 4, 5, somewhere in their rounds, not in the second round or first round.
Well, day 2. So day 2 is second and third round.
I know, but I think it'd be more like the fourth round. I think they have other needs they need to fill that are more important, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't see it as a second round pick. I definitely think a third rounder is possible. Do they have compensatory picks this year?
I think they have 1 or 2. I think they have a third and a 7th round, I think.
Keep an eye on the third round. If they have 2 threes, I think it's definitely possible that you could see a running back drafted day 2.
It also depends on who's available, right? So if a guy that they like falls, then yeah, they'll probably take him. But if the guys go where they're supposed to go, I think they're going to maybe take one in the 4th, 5th round, somewhere in there, maybe.
All right, true or false? The Ravens will prepare for this draft as if Lamar Jackson is already signed.
True. At least the franchise tag. At least the franchise tag.
Yeah, I can agree with that because it sounds like with the Beckham signing, and if they're, I don't know how serious they are in any type of trade talks with DeAndre Hopkins, but I have to think that they're making progress. Right. I don't think it's been dragged. I don't think this is as bad as it was a few weeks ago, because I think Lamar Jackson also realizes that his best opportunity to win right now is with Baltimore.
Agreed.
There's no other team. All right. We might have mentioned this already, but true or false, the Packers should draft a tight end at number 15 to help Jordan Love.
False. I wouldn't draft a tight end there. I just wouldn't, unless you're telling me that guy's going to be George Kittle or Travis Kelce. Tight ends are so hit or miss in the league that unless you can tell me that guy's going to be great, I can't draft him there. I could do a wide receiver there, but I cannot draft a tight end there. I just can't.
See, I'd probably use that pick if he's available to draft that kid from Ohio State. Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Yeah.
He's probably the best wide receiver in the draft right now. And I think, again, pairing him with Christian Watson would actually make the Packers pretty, much improved and only can help Jordan Love.
Could you imagine they draft that guy and then Aaron Rodgers leaves?
Why would that be?
They draft that guy and Aaron Rodgers, like, are you kidding me?
If I was Aaron Rodgers, I'd be like, okay, well, I have Garrett Wilson, and I'm like,
no, but I'm saying it's got to rankle you a little bit, right? Like,
he's only been telling them for the past few years that they need weapons, and then like they draft a receiver. All right, true or false? With Chad Henne retiring, the Chiefs should consider drafting a QB on day 2 or day 3.
I'm gonna say false. I think they'd be better off with a veteran backup, somebody who can sort of like learn the offense and because they're gonna be so good all the time that you need more of like a guy who can come in and just manage the game, not have a bunch of turnovers. And you just don't know that with a rookie who's never gonna play, right? Like he's just never gonna play. So to me, I'd rather bring in somebody that as just like a good veteran backup, which I think there's still some available.
I'm going to say true on this one. Since the Chiefs are picking at the bottom of each round, I don't think it kills them to draft a young guy to develop behind Mahomes.
I don't think it kills him. I think it's just kind of a waste of a pick, to be honest with you. I mean, if you want to do it later or you undrafted free agent, you can do that. But
there's nothing wrong with also
needs, though. Like they do actually have needs, even
they do, but I don't think they're pressing like other teams, because they just won a Super Bowl. So. But
I think
the thing that worries me about Mahomes is like you get the sense like he's starting to wear down a little bit because every time I watch that guy on TV, I mean, he's an incredible quarterback. He's just always limping. Like, he just always seems to take some hits or he just, something always never seems to be right with him. But he still can. I mean, listen, as long as he's winning games, it doesn't matter. And he's winning trophies, winning rings. But it's just like you just get this sense he's going to break down sooner than later.
But to me, because the Chiefs are gonna be contending, right? You'd want somebody that you sort of have a little bit more faith in than a rookie, right? If he does actually get hurt, you don't want the season to go completely to pot if he does get hurt. So that's why I would go veteran. But I mean, it's 6-1. Backups are backups. They're good for like a half of a game, and then usually when they have to start a couple weeks in a row, they're terrible. That's why they're backups.
All right, true or false? The Vikings will release Dalvin Cook right before the draft and select Bijan Robinson to replace him.
I don't know about the Bijan Robinson part, because I think the Eagles pick at 10, and there's rumors that they're going to go for Bijan Robinson at 10. But I think they're going to release Dalvin Cook because he won't take a pay cut, which
he actually wasn't as good as I thought he was last year.
No,
I mean, he wasn't. And I think they have like Alex Madison, I think, who's actually running the ball pretty well for them. So I could definitely see them taking a running back. Cook will definitely get released. I kind of agree with that. What?
By the way, the backup running back I just learned this the other day. Do you know the nickname for the backup running back for the Vikings?
No.
He's called the sous chef.
Why?
Because a sous chef is like the assistant to the head cook, Dalvin Cook. So they call him the sous chef. I thought that was hysterical. I've never heard that before. I think that's wonderful. I love creative nicknames.
I could definitely see the Vikings releasing Dalvin Cook. In fact, from what I'm hearing and reading online, it looks like it's pretty much a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, and then he's going to go to the Dolphins.
Great. All right, true or false? If like everybody goes to Miami, of course.
No taxes, man.
Where they can afford all these guys.
No taxes. I don't know.
If not drafted by the number 4 overall pick, QB such as Will Levis and Anthony Richardson could drop out of the top 10.
Oh yeah, but yes and no. I do think somebody will trade in to get one of them. Like if you really like one of them and you're afraid someone's going to trade up and take them, I think somebody would trade in. One of those guys is definitely going to fall out of the top 10. One of them is definitely going to fall. I just don't know which one.
See, if I had to pick out of the two, I think it's going to be Richardson because there's just not a lot on him. And supposedly he's very raw. Like he needs like at least a year or two to sit before he can be a starter. And I don't know if a team will trade up for that unless they feel like, okay, we have one more year of like, for example, I'll just throw out a name like Kirk Cousins.
Right.
So a team might say, okay, well, he's going to be gone. He has 2 more years left. So Richardson could sit behind him for 2 years. And then when Cousins leaves, he can be the starter. He'll be ready to go. But yeah, I could see, be honest, I do agree that there'll be a team that moves up in the top 10. Couldn't tell you who that is yet.
Right.
But if one gets taken, the other one I could definitely see easily dropping out of the top 10.
I would not be surprised if the Commanders moved up.
That would be a wise move, though.
Because the idea that whoever they're talking about being their quarterback next year is insane. Will you stop? Sam Howell is not going to be the freaking quarterback unless you can't get another quarterback. Like that's how it's going to be. And they're going to be like, well, we always liked him. Stop.
Remember,
if you get a better guy, you're getting a better guy.
New ownership group.
Yeah.
And I think what's going to happen is I think this is Rivera's last year regardless. And I think whoever takes over, whoever becomes the head coach will probably get his own quarterback. So, and Brissett's only there for a year. All right, last but not least, you are the GM of the Giants. Who are you selecting in the first round?
Either a center or a wide receiver. I just don't know who that is. I don't know enough about the players, to be completely honest. I don't watch enough college football. Zay Flowers scares me because he's 5'8", but people love him. I don't know. I would love, I can't pronounce his name, the dude from Ohio State, because that dude's a great player. Yeah, I watched him in some of the games late in the season. He's very good. But to me, it's either interior offensive line, specifically center, or wide receiver.
I think the Jets will draft an offensive lineman if one is there. The draft is always tricky. Like sometimes it's one of those things where like, okay, you know, we've seen some surprising picks in the top 10 over the years where like, oh, that guy was more of a top 15, top 20, and they picked him 8th.
Right.
It could definitely throw off the draft for the Jets, but I do think the goal is to draft an offensive lineman, and I do think that's what they're going to do. I just don't know which one it is because to me, if I had to pick a name out of the three, I would say Broderick Jones is the one that's probably going to be there at 13.
Right.
But you never know. I actually think in the second round, which whatever pick they wind up with, they will draft a center. I could see them back-to-back picks being offensive linemen because
they have to.
Yeah. You have youth on the line right now. You don't have enough youth, but you do have youth. You have to keep building it. And the only way to build it right now is, and again, the kid that you draft will be good protection for Mekhi Becton.
And also, like the idea that like you have all these really good skill position players, but it doesn't mean anything if you can't get him the ball.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you're running for his life, and the thing is, you have a 39-year-old quarterback whose mobility issues he's not really as mobile as he used to be. You got to protect him. That's it.
Exactly.
All right. So before we get into, in case you missed it,
well, let's do the little Giants thing. Let's do that next week. We'll do that post-draft.
Oh, man, you made me build it up for nothing?
Well, but we'll tease it for next show. Now you got to listen to the next show, and we'll do the little Giants thing. Because next week we're not going to have a ton to talk about. We'll talk a little bit about the draft. But again, we don't know enough to really talk about the draft in the way that some people will.
We'll be talking some playoffs.
NBA, but we'll do the little Giants thing next week.
Baseball recap in a nutshell. Yankees are still doing fine. Although one thing I will say, something that needs to be, I've had enough with. I was watching the Yankee highlights. What's that?
Aaron Hicks?
Well, no. Well, he doesn't faze me one bit. You know, this morning I was watching the Yankee highlights from last night's game. And, man, I get the Jays and Yankees don't like each other. But Vladimir Guerrero Jr. staring down the reliever. Give me a break, man. Like seriously, like the guy there's no way that guy intended to hit Vlad Guerrero Jr. Right. And and the thing was like, and I'm watching Guerrero like literally stare this guy down. The guy just like kind of was like, yeah, whatever, you know. And Rizzo's having words with Guerrero because Guerrero's like taking it so freaking personally. It's like, give me a break.
I honestly don't understand the beef. To be completely honest with you, I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. I don't get why the Yankees, but I don't get why the Yankees would like sort of, I hate to say lower themselves, but like, why are you beefing with a team that's not been as good as you for the last 10 years? Like, stop.
Yeah. But it just made me laugh because like Guerrero was like so salty about it. And I'm like, what is he? I was like, there's no way that guy hit him on purpose. Like, there's no way, you know, it's like, just give me a break already. Like, enough is enough.
And they won today. And he said stupid shit like, oh, I'll never play for the Yankees no matter what. Okay. If the Yankees offer you $500 million, you're going somewhere else and taking $300 million. Okay. Yeah,
exactly. See, like that's why I hate players that say that shit because they always claim that they won't do this and they won't do that. And then it just winds up being the exact opposite. Yeah. I've been really impressed with the way the Mets have this West Coast trip. The A's series aside, that series is just whatever. but taking 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers, taking the first 2 games of the series against the Giants, I thought was really impressive, especially now with the fact that, Scherzer could get suspended for 10 games.
Oh, he is.
Because of what he has to appeal, though.
He's not going to win. So he's going to be.
But he can. But until the thing is, I guess my thing is right now, if you're going to appeal, if you're going to get suspended, just take the suspension now.
Yeah.
Rather, because I think they play the Rockies at home when they come back from the trip in San Francisco. He wasn't going to pitch the Giants series anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And that's already 3 or 4 games. You're done. So you're just gone for a week.
Right.
So, but that's pretty much where we're at. So next week what we'll do is we'll have a little fun with some sports movies and stuff. We'll talk a little draft. We'll continue our talk with the NBA playoffs. But for now, as always, how we close the show with a little in case you missed it. Maddie, hit the music.
Come on.
Any day.
Pinwheeling.
See, nothing changes from your apartment.
Come on. Listen, some things change. Now, so like I'll give you folks a little background into things that go on here. This week I've had that sounds about right.
I can't help but laugh. I'm
sorry. No, it was perfect timing. I couldn't have done that better if
Hacksaw Jim Duggan just doesn't give a rat's ass what you have to say about the good old days.
Indeed.
In case you missed it, closes out our show for this week on the Polar Opposites. 4 topics, anything goes, all opinions legal, all opinions matter. Maddie, are you ready?
Oh!
All right, number 1, the beginning of the end of the A's in Oakland is upon us, with the Athletics signing a binding agreement to purchase 49 acres in order to build a 30,000-seat stadium with a retractable roof in Las Vegas. The team's lease with the Oakland Coliseum expires after the 24 season, and the stadium in Vegas will be ready in time for the 2027 season. When the 24 season is over, it's possible the A's will still move to Vegas and play their games in the stadium that houses a AAA affiliate, the Aviators. Maddie, even if the A's move to Vegas, do you expect things to change when it comes to building a competent team?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, you can say whatever you want about the A's, and it is a disaster that they're sort of fielding a team just to basically move and lose and move, right? But like the A's were really good in the late 90s, early 2000s, like really good. Now, they didn't win anything, but they were still very good. So I think that if they have a 30,000 seat stadium that they're selling out every day and they're having some revenue come in and they're not playing in a park that is just rancid and terrible, I do think they're going to be better, because I do think they have people that can recognize talent. They just can't afford to keep any of it, so they end up trading it all away. So I do think it'll make them more of a competent team, yes.
Don't they have possums now in Oakland?
There's one stuck in the wall of the visiting team's announce booth.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yep.
It can't hurt. I just hope Billy Beane is not part of the process, because I think if he still is, you're still going to be doing Moneyball even in Vegas. But you're right. The A's have been a good team way back when. They haven't been in a long time now. Could have to do with the fact of being in Oakland. Could have to do with the fact the team doesn't spend money. It's tough to say. I could tell you from just an executive standpoint, the general manager and all the executives have been terrible with their trades. They haven't gotten quality prospects back for their best players. And look, their best players are not as elite compared to other teams like the Yankees or Astros or whatever, but you built them up to trade them to get the best value. And the guys you've gotten back in return have just been awful.
Yeah.
They've just been like god awful. And maybe the move to Vegas is probably the best thing that could happen to this team right now, but it's still like another 3 years away.
Yeah.
So,
all right, number 2, the Arizona Diamondbacks have placed Madison Bumgarner on waivers after posting an ERA over 10 through his first 4 starts of the season. The Diamondbacks are on the hook for the remaining $37 million owed to him over the next 2 years. Bumgarner's last start with the Diamondbacks was about as bad as expected, giving up 7 runs, 7 hits, and 4 walks in 3 innings against the Cardinals. Which New York team could most likely use Bumgarner at this stage of the season, the Mets or the Yankees?
I'm going to say the Mets, because the Mets basically have 4/5 of their starting rotation going to be down. We don't know when Verlander's coming back, although he could be back in the next week or two. Scherzer's going to be suspended. We already know that. Carrasco's out for at least a month with inflammation, and Quintana is out until the summer. So right now you basically have Senga, and you have McGill, Peterson. Yesterday you got an incredible outing from Joey Lucchesi, of all people. So, listen, I'm not stupid to think that Madison Bumgarner is going to come to the Mets and it's going to flip a switch and he's going to be amazing. He hasn't been good, but he's a body. And at this point, the Mets need a starter. They need a starting pitcher. If he's interested in coming to New York and the Mets want him, they don't have to pay him a lot of money because the Arizona Diamondbacks are going to eat the money anyway. I would say the Mets. Wouldn't be surprised if the Yankees kick the tires on him either.
To be honest, I don't think either team's going to kick the tires. To be honest, I think it's just listen, if you want to take a flyer, go ahead. But I think you've seen the end of Bumgarner, right? Like those years where he won the championships with the Giants really took it out of his arm. He just doesn't. It's like he's throwing batting practice ball up there. It's crazy. So listen, the Mets could use him. I think to a certain extent, the Yankees could use him. I mean, basically right now, I'd rather see Bumgarner out there than stupid Clark Schmidt giving up 2 more freaking home runs in the first inning every freaking game. So, we'll see. I just don't think either team's going to give it a shot. I really don't.
All right, number 3, Antonio Brown opened up about his relationship with Tom Brady during an appearance on the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast. Brown claims that during the offseason, after the Bucs won the Super Bowl, he was negotiating with Tampa about a return, and Brady cursed out Brown's agent regarding pushing back on the value of the deal, which was not for a lot of money. Brown also blamed Brady for an ankle injury he suffered while with the Bucs and accused the QB of getting special treatment when he left the team to be with his family. Knowing what we know about Antonio Brown, what are your thoughts on his latest rant?
Like this dude just does not get anything, man. He just doesn't get it. Yo, Tom Brady was like one of the only people in your corner when nobody wanted anything to do with you. He brought you into the Patriots. You did stupid crap. You got cut from the Patriots. He brought you to the Bucs. You did stupid crap. You left the Bucs when you ran off the field without your shirt. Tom Brady does not hurt your ankle on the field, all right? You hurt your ankle on the field. You can't tell me Tom Brady threw a pass that made you hurt your ankle. Stop. And it's you would think that the one person that Antonio Brown would sort of just forever be thankful for would be Tom Brady because of the way Tom Brady went to bat for this guy. Like, put his reputation on the line for this guy. And he basically just shits all over it. It's unreal to me. Like, I could get it with other guys, but Tom Brady did so much for that dude. It makes no sense. None at all.
I have a tough time with Antonio Brown here killing Tom Brady because that, and because quite frankly, whether Brady didn't want him to get more money, I don't know what the deal was. Tom Brady knew that Antonio Brown wasn't going to make as much as Tom Brady for that deal. But again, like, there's something wrong with this guy. Just from a mental standpoint, whether it's CTE, I don't know what it is, man. There's something very wrong with this guy. And he just keeps finding a way to kind of step in it. The whole thing with the Bucs, when he, took his, pads off and went, walking to the locker room topless during a game. That was against the Jets of all the game. But it was like, he just cannot get out of his own way, and he never will. And the thing is like Tom Brady wanted him back. Tom Brady got him to New England that year when, his last year in New England, got Belichick to trade for him, got him to Tampa Bay. And like it's amazing that Antonio Brown still does it. And then didn't Antonio Brown say some shit about his wife?
Yeah, you posted a picture of the
two of them together saying almost like kind of like almost implying like, yeah, I had sex with your wife and you didn't even know it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I don't know what to say anymore. And the thing is, if you keep giving this guy the platform, he's just going to keep talking all this bullshit. And it's just, his career is over. We already know that. There's just nothing more to it. But it's like the fact that you would do this and not for nothing, Tom Brady has earned the right. He just won a Super Bowl for Tampa Bay as soon as he got there. He deserves it, to get the treatment to go be with his kids, if anything. Who cares? But I don't know, man. It's just like, it's just, I don't like Tom Brady, obviously, but it's just like the fact that this guy just takes a shit on him every time is just like unbelievable to me. I can't explain it.
It's just ungrateful. Number 4, 5 players, including 4 from the Detroit Lions, were suspended by the league for violating the NFL's policy on gambling. Jamison Williams, the Lions' first-round pick last year, was the most notable player in violation as he was suspended for 6 games. Williams missed most of last season recovering from a torn ACL suffered during the national championship game while he was at Alabama, and will now miss the first 6 games of the regular season. For a team that has high expectations this season, how much of a setback is this to the Lions?
I think it's a little bit of a setback, not a huge one, because the beauty of this is the draft is Thursday.
Right.
And this could definitely change their whole philosophy because don't they have a pick in the top 10 because of a trade, right?
They do, yeah.
They have the Rams pick.
Yeah, I think so.
So if they really wanted to, they could draft a kid from Ohio State and say, okay, well, Jameson's going to be out for 6 games. We have Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now we're going to have this kid, and we're going to have Jameson Williams back anyway to help their offense. The thing with me is that the other 3 guys that got suspended were all wide receivers for the Detroit Lions. So I guess your depth takes a bit of a hit, like right now. But for a team that has the expectations it does have, Jameson Williams didn't play to the end of last season because he was recovering all year. I think obviously it's a bigger hit to Jameson Williams because he's going to miss important games during the season, and it could, depending on how the draft goes for the Lions, it could be a bit of a hit. And on top of that, though, this is how ridiculous this is. And I mentioned this to you before we started recording.
Right.
Jameson Williams got suspended because he made the bets on the Lions facility, in the Lions facility. If he had gone to like a Starbucks, he would not have gotten caught.
So dumb.
So that's where I'm like, these guys have got to stop doing this shit because it's, again, we've talked about it ad nauseum when we did Polar Opposites back in the day. These guys think they're above it all. They think they're never going to get caught. They think they're just going to do it and they don't care. And then look what happens, man. Like, look what happens. I mean, granted, luckily he only got 6 games. But it's like, can you imagine if he was suspended for the year? I mean, it's just unended. And all because you just decided to place a bet at the team facility. Like, you can't be that dumb, man. Like,
no, they can be that dumb. They can be that dumb, and they usually are. But the other thing too is like just it's like we talked about with weed, right? Like, listen, I smoke weed, but still, like if somebody said if there was a rule in my job where I couldn't, I wouldn't, right? If you could lose out on millions of dollars, just don't do it. You're going to be retired when you're like 35. You can do it all then, and it's the same thing here. Just don't bet on football, man. Just don't bet on football. Just make it easy on yourself. Bet on basketball, baseball, hockey, soccer, whatever. Just don't bet on football. The other thing, too, I'll say this about him missing those games. It's not great for the Lions, but what actually it turns out to be okay for the Lions is that, like, when he comes back, it's not like he's coming back from injury, right? Like, he's coming back from suspension. So, like, conceivably, he should be able to hit the ground running. So we'll see how that turns out. Since he did have some time last year, it might take a couple weeks to get in with Stafford, but not Stafford. Oh my God.
Goff.
Thank you. Goff. Yeah. Terrible with names. Too much weed. But so that's what I think it's terrible, bad, but not horrible for them.
I mean, for a team that's basically, they are the sexy pick this year to make a run.
Of course.
Okay. So for a team like that right now, it hurts. It definitely is going to hurt them. Yeah. Unless they attack it in the draft with one of their 2 first-round picks, it'll soften the blow a little bit.
Yeah.
But again, you probably had very high expectations for him because he was going to be the guy who stretches the field for you, whereas St. Brown was more of a kind of like a situational pass catcher, So I definitely think it hurts them a bit. However, if they attack the draft like I think they might now, it may not hurt them for very long because they'll probably wind up drafting a receiver, and that guy's going to probably go right in and be a starter until Williams gets back.
Yeah.
In case you missed it, is officially over, and this episode of the Polar Opposites is over. And we'd like to thank everybody for checking it out, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, or anywhere else where the podcast is posted. We'll be back next week, post-draft, talk a little bit about the draft. Won't go crazy, as Matt and I are not really draft analysts, so we're not going to sit here and dive deep into the pool of who the Jets selected in the 4th round and the Giants selected in the 5th round and all that stuff. But we will get into some basketball. We will get into some draft talk. We might be able to talk a little baseball, and we're going to do some sports movie stuff next week as well. That should be a lot of fun. So again, on behalf of Matt, this is Craig. This has been the Polar Opposites podcast. Wherever you are, stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your week. Maddie, sign us off.
Bye.